can't. Like, why can't we destroy that crappy door? It just doesn't make any sense. But it's another one of those things you have to accept as a gameplay contrivance. The devs want shortcuts that you have to unlock later, so no matter how little sense it makes, they're still there and they are not passable. But Kratos, man, you can turn giant, destroy cities at will. Why is this door giving you guff? At number 9, when you kill an enemy in battle, but then the cutscene starts up and they're fine. I was just thinking about this the other day. I was literally playing Chrono Trigger, and they added cutscenes after the fact. And they actually put a cutscene in where a character beats up a bunch of dinosaurs and scares them away. And then it cuts back to the game, and that character does it again. The same action, but as a sprite. It's kind of the reverse of this problem, but it's also kind of the exact same thing. A recent and particularly infuriating example happens in WoLong Fallen Dynasty, where the incredibly difficult Lu Bu boss somehow ends in a draw. Like, dude, your health bar is 0. My health bar isn't 0, therefore I win. But the game doesn't want you to beat Lu Bu yet, so I guess you didn't. There's a lot of other examples out there. It's pretty common in JRPGs, and Metal Gear Solid 3 has a pretty funny example where you just riddle Volgin with bullets in his boss encounter, and he shows up a few minutes later completely fine. It's a trick mostly done to show how badass the enemy is, but sometimes it feels like a cheat. Like, you killed them, they're dead, their health is 0, but the game's not done with their character arc, so none of that. Like, it kind of feels like one of those shootouts with a punk kid on the playground where they come up with excuses for why the shots don't count or something. Like, that kid was annoying then, and it feels the same. At number 8, speaking of cutscenes, cutscene Dante versus in-game Dante. I don't need to say anything else if you've played the Devil May Cry series. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, if not, there's a lot of games where your character's a total unstoppable badass in cutscenes and then a flailing dork when you're actually playing as them. I mean, in theory, you could get better at the game and get to the point of the cutscene, but let's say you just started and you don't know how to play the game. How is that guy you? Like any cutscene in Devil May Cry 3, Dante can just shrug off dozens of enemies like that are trying to stab him at one time. He's literally a human pincushion, destroys all of them with ease, it's nothing. But then the gameplay starts and those enemies suddenly become actually dangerous. Bayonetta, probably one of my favorite game series of all time, is one that takes this to an extreme too. Cereza can perform completely ludicrous feats and destroy everything in her own special way without breaking a sweat. And then it switches to actual gameplay and things get dicier. Tons of games do this, not just over-the-top character action games. There's plenty of games where the cutscene, your character is way more badass, and it's just not possible to even do it in the game. The most absurd example I can think of by a wide margin is a pre-Dark Souls action game from called Ninja Blade. It's almost like a parody of action games. It's so ridiculous. Every cutscene is totally nuts. Your guy can fly, he runs on walls, he's super mobile, but that's the cutscene. Once you're in control, it's a game made by From Software, so it ain't like that. Like, you can barely move, his attacks are pretty crappy, and there's invisible walls everywhere, so it's pretty limited in comparison to the cutscenes. Like, I get it. Game devs want there to be cool cutscenes, no matter how much they contradict the gameplay, and most of the time it's actually kind of funny, but sometimes it's a little disappointing. I don't want to just watch crazy stuff that looks totally badass. I also want to do it. Like, that's what separates a video game from a movie or a TV show, right? At number 7, when in the next game, Batman just leaves all his gadgets at home. You know what I mean? Like, one of those things you just have to accept. When a sequel happens, the main character is always just gonna forget a bunch of stuff. Gonna be lower level, gonna lose their equipment, and there may be a reason for it narratively, there may not. A lot of the time, the excuses are pretty flimsy too, but most players go through with it because it's kind of how the game works. With Batman, he's a good example because he's kind of tougher to justify than a lot of them. Like, the whole thing is that Batman is a super detective. He's prepared for everything and he knows the drill, so to speak. But in every Arkham game, without fail, he's entering these supervillain infested situations with the bare minimum of his equipment, and then he has to, like, gather it. I get it. It's a video game. You want to progress. You want a reason to continue and introduce new mechanics throughout the whole thing. And it's important even in a sequel because it's a video game. But even though they try to justify it a bit by having Batman say all the equipment would slow him down if he carried it all the time, I don't feel slower by the end of the game. when I'm carrying all that equipment. And no matter what game it is, whether it's Batman or Zelda or Metroid or pretty much anything else with a sequel, they have to come up with an excuse why the hero doesn't just start out with all the stuff they had from the last game. And I bring in Zelda, even though, like most Zeldas, take place in different eras. This upcoming one, Tears of the Kingdom, doesn't, and this is going to happen in that game. I don't expect the reasons to make sense because that's kind of just what we expect with sequels at this point. This happens so much, the rare time the hero actually does keep everything from the last game, it's kind of shocking. And then, like, the game's villain hits them and they lose all of it, like it falls into the sewer or something. And you're like, oh yeah, right, I don't have all of my stuff. Now we're back to normal. And number 6 is the abundance of indicators, like climbable walls that are color-coded for your convenience. This is something that I think is probably helpful, but it's also just really strange when you come upon it. Like, it sure is nice someone came out and painted all the climbable walls white so Lara Croft knows where to jump. I mean, like, which one of the henchmen in the crew is the White Knight? Like, who takes the time to paint out all this stuff? Like, ideally, you would want the hero not to get anywhere near you. Mirror's Edge did it right by giving you kind of a random flash of color that's not actually part of the game world, and you can turn it off. And sometimes it can be subtle. Like, there's times when lighting directs people towards something, or the angles of certain things are arranged in a certain way that points your eyes in the right direction. And yet, whoever wrote cut off their limbs in blood on that wall in Dead Space, that makes sense. I get it. But let's say you're a bad guy setting traps. Oh, we got a tripwire over here. Why, the hero won't know what's coming. But you know what? It might be kind of hard to tell that you can climb up this thing. So it would be courteous if we, like painted it in a way that sort of indicated that you can. Can we get somebody on that? Why, sure, Dr. Robotnik. I'll even put some signs up that indicates there's a bottomless pit here, just so that Sonic knows to jump there. Like, what is that? Yeah, I get that it's to make it so the player feels like they know what you can and can't climb, or where you can't go, or what have you, but it's super weird. Like, who went around and painted all the crates in the Resident Evil 4 remake with the yellow? What is that? That being said, it is helpful. And like back in the day, stuff that you could interact with just looked different because it was a polygon on a pre-rendered background, or it was more or less detailed than its surroundings, or has a different color palette or something. It's not like that anymore. Everything's super detailed. So it's not something I dislike. It's just something that doesn't make any sense at all. At number 5, when you have to learn to run. I mean, I don't think I have to explain this one, but let's say you're a video game hero. You're an over-the-top badass. Sort of comes with the territory, right? You're an expert fighter, expert sword handler, expert with guns, etc. But I guess basic cardio is elusive to you. Skill tree is kind of a basic fact of life in gaming. Almost every game has some RPG element to them, and that's not a bad thing by itself, but there's some ridiculous situations, like in No More Heroes, where Travis has to learn the fine art of running. Yeah, you have to learn to run. Like, you couldn't do it until somebody taught him. And Travis is an adult. He got to that point in his life never having run before. Another particularly silly example is in Just Cause 3, where this highly skilled special agent can't aim until he learns how to do it at a shooting range. Or even from a more general level, like look at Deus Ex. You play as this highly trained special agent who can barely hold a gun at the start of the game. You gotta level up all your stats before you're even halfway decent. It's the contrast between how you're presented in the game versus how worthless your character is at the start. Because, again, there is a need for progression, so it makes sense to some extent, but the point of including those mechanics is to have it be meaningful, and there should be a certain baseline of competency that makes sense, but certain video game protagonists just don't have it. At number 4, everything being a puzzle for whatever reason. Now, this is pretty low-hanging fruit. So low it's probably rotting. But if you want to talk about something that doesn't make sense in single-player games, it's all the puzzles. Like in a normal, logical world, people lock up their belongings using, like, locks. Not in video games, though. You have to align the shadow puppets to swap the shotgun with the replica shotgun, solve the tile puzzle, or insert 3 emblems into the Tower of Hanoi to open the lock. Resident Evil is the king of the nonsensical puzzle, but almost every single-player game is guilty of this to some degree.
Squid Game. Apparently, there's a lot of medical scenes in it. I watched a few episodes. If you didn't, spoiler alert, let's get started. Beep-whoop.
Come on, let me see. Poor thing.
I don't think I have to explain to you why eating someone's blood is a bad thing. Infection, disease.
Got a sweet taste to it.
Does he have diabetes? Did he just diagnose him with diabetes? Back in the day, if you had uncontrolled diabetes, your urine would have a fruity odor to it. That's where diabetes mellitus came from. Didn't your mom ever teach you to not get in a car with strangers?
Stranger danger.
See, I need an anesthesiologist right now because I don't know what this gas is. I want to know what gas they're using. If you know, comment down below. This scene here is really cool, but there's a few improbable factors happening at the same time. How do they all wake up simultaneously at the same exact time if they were giving a chemical? Chemicals have different excretion points in different individuals. I'm gonna have a certain set of effects. You may have a different set of effects. How do they all wake up uniformly?
Green light. Red light. Player 324 eliminated.
Oh. That's internal bleeding. Oh. Medically, I think you and I have the same understanding of what's happening. This old man.
Red light.
Why does he have a huge smile on his face watching this? You know what just happened? He tore his ATF, his anterior talofibular ligament, just like me. I actually just got my MRI done, I tore it. If momentum's carrying you forward and you're falling, for someone to grab you while they're leaning forward, you just have to be Jack Diesel. There's no way you're doing it, especially this guy with his frame, no shot. Game number 1, in Squid Game, not compatible with life. Unless you can get past the line, then compatible. Ooh.
She's diabetic.
When a patient's diabetic, they have poor circulation to their lower extremities, and you don't have white blood cells going to fight the infection in that area. Therefore, you get a worsening infection, a gangrene, which leads to an amputation.
She had to be in a lot of pain recently.
That's not true. Because you're having your nervous system suffer, you actually might not feel that you have such a bad infection on your lower extremity.
Will you be able to treat her for it?
In the worst case, she might need to have her feet amputated. Let's keep her here for now.
And treatment here is IV antibiotics and wound cultures to see if the antibiotics are appropriate.
Give it here! Let me do something! Give me my money!
This is an incredibly painful injury. You have a ton of nerve endings in your fingertips, in your hand. That's why you're able to do very fine motor control. 2-point discrimination, where if you have 2 pins touching your fingers, you can tell a difference between them, even though they're really close together. So getting your hand crushed like that, obviously very painful. Also, you can't use your hand again. It would have to be amputated, the rest of it. You can't just put it back together like you can with a fracture.
Jerk, how's this?
Ooh, that wasn't good form on the punch. You don't want to do one of these wide things, because I'm boxing lately. Ooh. Hip kick.
Listen up.
Hip kick.
You should.
Rib
Look,
kick.
sir. Is it that hard?
But did he dive? Is it? Look at this bear hair on me. I mean, he must have done some powerful kicking. The one way you could die in that situation is obviously internal bleeding, but what could be more dangerous is if he kicked a rib. The rib fractured and actually punctured a lung. He then had a pneumothorax with a collapsed lung, and because of that, he wasn't able to perfuse his body, and as a result, he died. Again with the neck cracking. Stop with the neck cracking.
I would now like to welcome you all to the third game,
My favorite game.
Tug of War.
Tell me you don't want to be one of those for Halloween. Just tell me. When you're falling from that height, everything breaks, everything splatters, because you're essentially going from a really fast speed to a complete stop. Incompatible with life.
He's not breathing. Go get that doctor.
Didn't he just like fall down a massive height? Yeah, he's not breathing. Is that a liver? Looks like a liver. How about some ice for that liver? Ideally, when you're transporting organs that have been harvested for donation, their viability after death varies depending on which organ you're talking about. The heart, for example, probably the shortest lived one, 4 to 6 hours. Ideally, you want to keep them cold, almost like a refrigerator. This fluid that they're putting the organs in is probably some sort of preservation fluid to help protect the organs from the cold that they're about to be put into.
I bet I...
Game developers have to think of tons of different situations that a player could cause in a game that are out of the ordinary, but they don't think of all of them. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, 20 things developers didn't think anyone would try. Starting off with number 20 in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the easy Guardian Stalker kills. Obviously, the devs didn't see this coming. It's an easy exploit that makes some of the most dangerous enemies in the game total pushovers. You know the giant Guardian robots that stalk around pretty much everywhere in Hyrule, mostly around ruins, but you'll find them from time to time in different areas. Particularly playing dead, that's always a fun one to stumble upon. They look like they're disabled, but then you get close to them, they spring to life and get to fire in their laser. It's an old meme, but it checks out. These Guardians can be dispatched easily. You just use stasis on them. If you do it while they're pretending to be dead, then instead of getting frozen like usual, they'll just fall through the ground and instantly die. These things are supposed to be incredibly deadly, but they're rendered complete chumps with this simple trick. At number 19 is Doom, the 2016 reboot, doing extra damage with the weapon wheel. Another one of those ridiculously easy tricks that can't be intentional in the first Bethesda-published Doom game. You have a weapon wheel that slows down time when you open it up. Simple enough, right? It doesn't have any effect on weapons that do damage over time, except for one, the BFG 9000. You fire this thing and immediately open up the weapon wheel to slow down time. The BFG shot is going to continue to do damage while being slowed down, and by the time the shot disappears, it could easily do 3 times as much damage as it would normally. Pre-patch, it was even more powerful, something like 10 times as much damage, but even in its current weakened state, 3 times as much damage is still a lot, and makes it so you can take off a pretty big chunk of a boss's life bar with very little effort. At number 18, a classic, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, holding square while riding a mountain bike. Why this happens, I don't know, and I'm talking about the PlayStation controller, obviously, but you hold down square while tapping X, and CJ's body will get all screwed up and twisted with elongated arms and weird effects on him. Only happens in the PlayStation 2 version of the game, might I add. So Rockstar managed to patch it out with later releases, but the trick still works in the PlayStation version. It serves no practical purpose, but it's bizarre and very fun to screw around with. At number 17, using dog meat to open any lock in Fallout 4. Master level locks in Fallout 4 require you to have pretty high lock-picking skills to unlock them, or you can just have a dog. The first companion you meet is good old dog meat, who is so good at fetching, he can literally fetch anything, even if it's behind the most complex locking mechanisms. And don't question it, it's dog meat, he's a good boy, right? All you have to do is bring dog meat with you to a master level lock, use the fetch item command, and he'll automatically grab whatever's nearby. That means you can get the cryomancer from the first vault, which is supposed to be a thing you come back for after dozens of hours, within minutes instead. And number 16 is Hogwarts Legacy. We're going to call this Just Fly Away. Trolls are some of the toughest enemies in Hogwarts Legacy, but they've got one fatal flaw. They're dumb. Like, dumb as hell. Normally, each fight, one of these guys is supposed to be a grueling and dangerous battle, but don't bother with that. Just get their attention, jump on a broom, and watch as they just follow you over a ledge to their immediate deaths. Getting the timing right can be a little tricky, but getting too far away from these guys, and they'll just chuck rocks at you. But otherwise, it's really easy to clear out the trolls that developers probably didn't expect players to do because it's almost too easy. At number 15 is Grand Theft Auto 4, driving into a swing set. Yeah, the world of this game is a dangerous place, but the most deadly things in Liberty City are the swing sets of doom. Known as the swing set glitch or the launch glitch, there is something extremely wrong with the physics of the swing sets in this game. If you drive into the wrong angle, you'll just suddenly find yourself careening through the air halfway across the city. I mean, getting it exactly right can take a little bit of practice. Sometimes driving into these things just crushes your car or sends you flipping back into a brick wall at 100 miles an hour. But if you're lucky, they will shoot you across the map in a way that is just baffling. The best part about it is that Rockstar never patched it out. You can still do it, and it's just as glorious as it ever was. At number 14 is Metal Gear Solid 5's airmail attack. Outside of the box thinking is one of the big fun things about Metal Gear Solid 5. It enables a lot, but this trick is clearly one of the few things that was not intentional because it was eventually patched out. Originally, calling a supply airdrop wasn't just useful for restocking equipment, it was also a deadly weapon. It wasn't that useful for taking out patrolling guards, but great for stationary targets like snipers. Early on in the game, you fight the sniper Quiet, which is supposed to be this tense thing where you have to sneak up on her, but using this method, she becomes way easier. Just one hit from a falling box is enough to end the mission. Getting the positioning right can be a little tricky, but with a little bit of practice, you can end the mission in literally seconds. It's a shame they patched it out because it's one of the best tricks in the game. And number 13 is Resident Evil 4's switching guns while aiming. We're talking about the original game here, just for clarity's sake. Known as the Ditman glitch, probably one of the most infamous tricks in all of Resident Evil 4, and pulling it off is surprisingly easy. All you have to do is get a striker shotgun, quickly open up your inventory, and switch to a new weapon. You have to do it pretty quick. If you see the laser sight coming out of the striker, you're too late, but it's not all that difficult to pull off once you get the hang of it. If done correctly, Leon will start doing absolutely everything faster, about 1.5 times faster, so stuff like reloading, using a knife, moving around, it's noticeably sped up. It's essentially a speedrunner trick that you're not really a speedrunner if you don't use it, because wow, does it really speed things up. It also makes the game a lot easier when it's active, and all it takes to do is a specific shotgun and some moderately tricky timing. And number 12 is dung pie protection in Dark Souls. In this game, there is a mostly useless item called a dung pie, which is exactly what it sounds like. You can throw it at enemies and it'll build up the toxic effect on them, which can be incredibly effective in certain situations, but there's a major drawback. You also get toxic buildup every time you use one. Toxic's basically like super poison. It does tons of damage and is an all-around nasty status effect, but here's the thing. It could be worse. One of the most annoying sections of the game is a place called Blighttown. If you don't know Blighttown, you haven't played this game, but it's this miserable hanging shanty town that's dark, confusing, and filled with these infuriating enemies that use blow darts to inflict toxic on you. It makes this place miserable to try to explore, but certain players figured out an easy counter to these guys. You just give yourself toxic from the dung pies, which for some reason do way less toxic damage than if you get it from the blow dart snipers. Basically, it's kind of like a vaccine where you slightly infect yourself to build up protection, and it's a pretty handy little trick that sounds counterintuitive, but can be incredibly helpful for getting through this infuriating section of the game. 11 is
It's too
Half-Life
far
2
away.
standing on
That
something you're
spell
holding.
isn't ready yet.
In Half-Life 2, the player could hold a small flat object underneath themselves and jump repeatedly. Since the object is basically treated as a platform and carried objects are held at a set distance, you
I
can
can't
use this
cast
to
that
hover
yet.
over sizable parts of the level when done right. It's since been patched in Episode 1 and onwards, but it's still a vital part of the Half-Life 2 done quick speedrun. I mean, this game revolutionized the way games use physics, but it was not perfect. Case in point, this whole thing. At number 10, Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness, accessing a secret unused tutorial. This one's just bizarre. Part of it's intentional, but the rest, well, we'll get there. Angel of Darkness was an infamously broken game at release, and this is a fun glitch that's a good example of that. If you use a level select code and use it to
That's still
replay the first level,
recharging.
for some reason you can climb this ladder that normally ends the level without getting the required key first. That's not the interesting part, though.
That
Normally
spell
that's
isn't
where the
ready
level
yet.
ends, but
That's
if you're playing the
still
level this way,
recharging.
it keeps going, and you can see a big piece of cut content that they just left in the game. It's the entire tutorial, which for most
can't
games,
cast
cutting out a
that yet.
tedious tutorial section
That
will make
spell
them better,
isn't
but
ready yet.
for this game, a lot of this actually feels pretty essential, and it's never explained to the player in the real game. Most of the time, accessing cut content is a chore, but with this, all it took was a level select code. The devs on this game must not have had a lot of faith in this one, so they didn't think anyone would want to replay the first level. At number 9, the original Red Dead Redemption turning dynamite into a heat-seeking missile. Apparently this one's pretty well known, but in all my years of playing and replaying Red Dead Redemption, I've never noticed it. The trick here is incredibly simple. Anyone can do it. You grab some dynamite or a fire bottle, activate Deadeye, and target something moving fast like a bird. Yes, Deadeye works for throwables somehow. They always perfectly hone in on whatever you targeted, and it's amazing every time. Dynamite turns into just a heat-seeking missile that chases a bird through the air. Violence against my avian brothers and sisters, but notable nonetheless, or it'll follow a guy down the street too, which is fine. Completely fine. John Marston's aim is so good that he can break down all laws of physics, and this one's one of the best and easiest tricks to pull off in any of the Rockstar games. At number 8, in Final Fantasy VIII, loading up on tents. This is a game that's just made to be broken. It's pretty much built on a bazillion
I'm out of
confusing
range.
interlocking systems, so players just have to struggle through it the first time without really knowing what to do. But once you start looking into how everything works, it becomes clear how incredibly easy it is to blow this game wide open. This little trick's where it all starts. The first thing to do, if you want to completely neuter the difficulty, is just get a bunch of money by doing the seed exams, which are not hard. And if you fail, you can just do them again. So completing all these exams gets you tons of cash. You spend it on buying a whole lot of tents. Normally, you wouldn't need a bunch of tents, but in Final Fantasy VIII, you can refine items and transform them into spells, which can be junctioned into your stats. If you have not played this game, it's all gibberish, and if you have, it's still kind of gibberish.
Nothing like reading some comments first thing in the morning. Oh, this one looks interesting.
Food theory idea. How long could you survive in a locked supermarket just using the food in there?
Huh, that one's really good. I'll have to think about it. Yeah, that is a pretty good question.
That's still recharging.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show you can still
I
safely
can't cast
consume
that yet.
well past its expiration date. Theorists, I just want to start off by saying how much I love the theory ideas you submit, especially when they result in episodes like the one today. But, as I soon learned, answers like these are not easy to come by, friends. I mean, I originated pixel measurements. I have been finding numbers where numbers don't exist for a decade now. But
I
grocery
need to
store
get closer.
survival may just be one of the trickiest challenges that I faced in the last 10 10 years of making YouTube videos. For one thing, we're dealing with a lot of food products here. See, each distinct product in a grocery store gets assigned an SKU, or stock keeping unit. The average grocery store has an SKU count of about 33,000. That is 33,000 different product offerings. And that's not even taking into account the multiples of each item that the store has in its inventory, which means that even an average-sized grocery store likely has hundreds of thousands of items on its shelves. But how long can those items actually sustain a human being? In order to answer that, we'll need to go a step beyond counting the number of items and actually quantify the amount of food in a grocery store. After all, not every item in a grocery store is edible, and those that are edible have drastically different nutritional values. Plus, there's an added layer of complexity that has to be taken into account here: spoilage. This is actually one of our biggest factors because it's not as though our hypothetical person trapped inside the grocery store can just eat millions and millions of calories on day one before anything spoils and then coast off of body fat for the next 50 years. Sadly, the human stomach can only hold so much. This is coming from experience. Test those limits each and every time I step foot inside a cheesecake factory. So this means that our hypothetical person, who I'm gonna call Evan in honor of today's commenter, is gonna have to employ an actual strategy to maximize the amount of food going into his stomach and minimize the amount of food that's going to spoil. Theorists, today's prompt is an absolute beast that has a lot of moving parts. That's what's gonna make it so fun to answer. Hope you've all worked up an appetite for knowledge, that is, because today we're sinking our teeth into supermarket survival. For today's purposes, we're gonna quantify food in terms of calories. The FDA uses 2,000 calories per day as a general guide for nutrition advice, though they're also quick to admit that this is an oversimplification and there's really no one-size-fits-all number for caloric intake. But for this hypothetical exercise, it's gonna have to do the trick. We're also gonna assume that Evan is locked inside an average-sized grocery store, which these days is about 38,000 square feet according to Progressive Grocer. And that's actually fantastic news for us because one of our food theory field researchers, Luke, just so happens to live up the street from a grocery store exactly that size. See, today's episode is gonna require some good old-fashioned elbow grease, friends. This is a very specific question that we're attempting to answer, and the very specific inventory information that we need isn't publicly available knowledge. In order to get that info, we have no choice but to count the calories of grocery store items manually. And if that sounds like a ridiculous amount of work, yes. But this is food theory, people. If we're not gonna answer the question that one person was curious about in the comments, then who else will? Finally, we need to make a couple of assumptions about Evan's circumstances. We're gonna actually assume that the power's out in Evan's post-apocalyptic survival scenario. That means no ovens, no refrigerators, and no freezers. We'll also assume that he has no running water. Why are we making things so hard on poor Evan? Well, because our answer becomes more useful that way. If we determine that Evan can live out his entire natural lifespan inside a worst-case scenario grocery store with no utilities, then we know that he can also live a full lifespan inside a grocery store where water is easy to come by, and the shelf life of many foods can be extended using refrigeration. So, with all that housekeeping out of the way, the time has finally come to determine Evan's fate. How long is the maximum amount of time that one person can survive inside of a grocery store? Well, let's talk about that crucial first day. Me, I see it playing out a little something like this. Disheveled, Evan stumbles into a strikingly average-sized grocery store, in this case called Stater Brothers, but it could be interchangeable for any around the US. He frantically locks the doors behind him. Outside, some super intense doomsday scenario is raging on. I'm thinking aliens, zombies, alien zombies, you know, the works. The only other person with a key to the store is also the person with a key to Evan's heart, his true love, a theorista. Together they swore that if they were ever separated amid the chaos, they would rendezvous here, at the Stater Brothers, where they started their love in the frozen food aisle. Being the first to arrive, it is now Evan's sacred duty to wait and to survive for as long as he possibly can without leaving. Look, we put a lot of work into this episode. We are gonna amp it up with the drama. The grocery store's power is out, which means that the dairy section and the deli section are gonna be the first to spoil. Evan knows that he has to act quickly. Bacteria can render room temperature dairy and raw meat too dangerous for human consumption within hours. So if those calories are gonna count his survival, he's gonna have to move, and move fast. Evan's first order of business is to begin extending the shelf life of any quick spoiling foods he possibly can. Evan knows that in addition to calories, his body needs 20 different amino acids in order to survive, plus a variety of minerals and vitamins. So the more varied his diet is, the better. Amino acids, you gotta catch them all. Evan also knows that he should be able to extend the life of various raw meats by about a month or two. Even without refrigeration and electricity, the store has everything he needs. There's 377 pounds of salt in aisle 6 for curing the meat, and there's a downright shocking amount of fire building supplies in aisle 13 for smoking the meat. Via curing and smoking, he's able to save 120,000 calories worth of raw meat from spoiling, which, while impressive, is a mere fraction of the 10.7 million meat
bless
supplied calories that would be available to him in the section if things didn't spoil. But hey, extra time is extra time. By doing this all-important first step, Evan can ensure that red meat, poultry, and
Come to deliver a warning.
We're too late. This entire city must be purged. Jaina?
I'm sorry, Arthas. I can't watch you do this. I should have stopped him. He never would have turned. He'd still be alive.
Long ago, this land comprised the northern kingdoms of Lordaeron, ruled by King Tyrannus Menethil. Tyrannus had a son named Arthas. Arthas.
Open for business.
Even saying his name makes my body quiver in rage.
Have a good
Arthas took for himself a cursed blade known as Frostmourne.
It's too far away.
Behold, Muradin, our salvation. Frostmourne.
As a promising young paladin, Arthas was trained in combat by Muradin Bronzebeard and learned the ways of the light under Uther the Lightbringer. Soon after his induction into the Knights of the Silver Hand, a plague gripped the Northlands of Lordaeron. I joined Arthas to help investigate an insidious disease that caused the dead to rise again. After fighting the infected undead, we encountered the necromancer Kel'Thuzad and discovered his plans to infect outlying villages under the orders of the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis.
Hello again, children. I am Kel'Thuzad, and I've come to deliver a warning. Leave well enough alone. Your curiosity will be the death of you.
Are you responsible for this plague, Necromancer? Is this cult your doing?
Yes, I ordered the Cult of the Damned to distribute the plagued grain. But the sole credit is not mine.
What do you mean?
I serve the Dreadlord, Mal'Ganis. He commands the scourge that will cleanse this land and establish a paradise of eternal darkness.
And what exactly is this scourge meant to cleanse?
Why, the living, of course. His plan is already in motion. Seek him out at Stratholme if you need further proof.
But we arrived too late. The citizens had already consumed poisoned grain that would doom them to rise into undeath. To stop the plague from spreading further, Arthas ordered his knights to purge the entire city. Uther and I were horrified and refused to obey his cruel command.
We're too late. This entire city must be purged. Jaina?
I'm sorry, Arthas. I can't watch you do this. I should have stopped him. He never would have turned. He'd still be alive. Those who remained loyal to Arthas joined him and began the culling of Stratholme. Arthas sought vengeance upon Mal'Ganis.
Unfortunately for you, it won't end here. Your journey has just begun, young prince. Gather your forces and meet me in the Arctic land of Northrend. It is there that we shall settle the score between us. It is there that your true destiny will unfold.
But the demon slipped away to the frozen land of Northrend. While leading his forces in pursuit of Mal'Ganis, Arthas came upon his former mentor, Muradin, searching for a powerful blade called Frostmourne. When the sword was found, Muradin read its inscription and warned the prince that the weapon was cursed. But Arthas believed that the blade would give him the power to save his people. When the weapon broke free, a shard of ice struck Muradin down. Heeding the call of Frostmourne, Arthas claimed the sword and left Muradin for dead.
This is a light-forsaken land, isn't it? You can barely even see the sun. This howling wind cuts to the bone and you're not even shaking. My lord, are you all right?
You lied to your men and betrayed the mercenaries who fought for you. What's happening to you, Arthas? Is vengeance all as important to you?
Oh, spare me, Muradin. You weren't there to see what Mal'Ganis did to my homeland. Behold, Muradin, our salvation. Frostmourne.
Hold that. There's an inscription on the dais. It's a warning. It says, "Whomsoever takes up this blade shall wield power eternal. Just as the blade rends flesh, so must power scar the spirit." Oh, I should have known. The blade is cursed. Let's get the hell out of here.
I would gladly bear any curse to save my homeland.
Oh, leave it be, Arthas. Forget this business and lead your men home.
Damn the men! Nothing shall prevent me from having my revenge, old friend. Not even you. Now, I call out to the spirits of this place. I will give anything or pay any price, if only you will help me save my people.
With Frostmourne in hand, Arthas confronted Mal'Ganis, who told him the voice he was now hearing was that of the Lich King, Ner'zhul. Obeying his new master, Arthas slew the Dreadlord and abandoned his troops as he pushed deeper into the frozen north.
So, you've taken up Frostmourne at the expense of your comrades' lives, just as the Dark Lord said you would. You're stronger than I thought.
You waste your breath, Mal'Ganis. I heed only the voice of Frostmourne now.
You hear the voice of the Dark Lord. He whispers to you through the blade you wield. What does he say, young human? What does the Dark Lord of the Dead tell you now?
He tells me that the time for my vengeance has come.
What? He can't possibly mean to...
It is finished.
My son, I need you to be no longer need to sacrifice for your people. You no longer need to bear the weight of your crown. I've taken care of everything.
Succeeding you, father.
this kingdom shall fall. And from the ashes shall arise a new order that will shake the very foundations of the world.
Arthas returned to Lordaeron. The kingdom rejoiced at the homecoming of its beloved prince. But that joy turned to ashes when Arthas entered the throne room and ran the accursed blade through his father's heart. Arthas scourged the land in the name of the Lich King Ner'zhul.
By killing your own father and delivering this land to the Scourge, you have passed your first test. The Lich King is pleased with your enthusiasm.
Yes, I've damned everyone and everything I've ever loved in his name. And I still feel no remorse, no shame, no pity.
The rune blade that you carry was forged by the Lich King and empowered to steal souls. Yours was the first one it claimed.
Then I'll make do without one. What is the Lich King's will?
Light, save my soul.
My own death came at the hands of Arthas, when he and his armies sacked my homeland, Quel'Thalas, and murdered my people.
The frozen throne is mine, demon. Step aside. Leave this world and never return. If you do, I'll be waiting.
I have sworn to destroy it, Arthas. It must be done.
Never.
Arthas had to face Illidan's Stormrage. After a grueling battle, the victorious Arthas ascended to the frozen throne. He drove his blade through the ice, releasing the spirit of Ner'zhul from its icy prison.
You lied to your men and betrayed the mercenaries who fought for you. What's happening to you, Arthas?
Your young prince will find death in the cold.
Return the way. Complete circle. Release me from this prison.
Merged into one and became the true Lich King. Should he rise again from the frozen north, all of Azeroth will face his wrath.
My son, the day you were born, the very forests of Lordaeron whispered the name Arthas. I tell you this, for when my days have come to an end, you shall be king.
You have been a loyal friend, Kel'Thuzad. I don't know what the future holds, or if I'll even return. But I want you to watch over this land. See to it that my legacy endures.
I shall, King Arthas. I shall.
I can't cast that yet. That's still recharging. It's locked.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me? Am I hearable?
That spell isn't ready yet.
Throughout the history of YouTube, there's of course been no shortage of creeps on the platform. However, there's always existed one champion atop this mountain of weirdos, one alpha goober, who is more laughably pathetic and cringe, and more dangerously unhinged than all of the rest. His name used to send shivers down the spines of all parents who had teenage girls in their household. His name has long since been forgotten, like an ancient threat. He's like the Sauron of YouTube, the Thanos of online accused predators. His name is Onision. This is someone I've covered quite a few times on the channel over the years, and we're going to be talking about him again because he is now facing his biggest lawsuit yet for his alleged grooming and solicitation of pictures of underage girls, as well as a lot of other really awful things that he has been accused of over the years. Talking about Onision in 2023 is like talking about a 1970s obscure action movie villain that no one remembers. It's just been so long since anyone's actually talked about him outside of just mentioning all of his absolute degeneracy or laughing at him for when he embarrasses himself. Even though he's not active on YouTube, he is still active on Twitter and posts just unbearable, unreadable garbage. Things like, "What if I hugged you and then buried my tongue deep inside your asshole and then I fished around in there for dingleberries? Would you like that? Would you like that, my naughty princess? Would you get squirty for me?" Like, absolutely awful vomit-inducing shit. So he'd get dunked on Twitter still as just a little punching bag, but he wasn't really a YouTuber anymore for the last, like, 4 or 5 years. I'll go ahead and give you, like, a brief history of him, since I'm sure most of you don't even remember the shit stain that he left on the internet. I'll give you a little lore recap. He started making shit all the way back in 2007, but really what blew up his channel was this video, the banana song, "I'm a Banana." It was a viral video that really popped off, and it's during that era of YouTube where everything was just like XD random and making silly songs like "Spoon, Spork, I got a spoon, a spork, sporky spoon," like that kind of awful shit. He capitalized on that genre, and from there grew 3 channels with over 1 million subs each, one of them over 2 million, which for its time was unheard of. He was one of the biggest channels YouTube had for years. He was absolutely massive. And then he started letting that power get to his head. He started falling into a lot of controversies, but by far the biggest one was he had a website where his audience of mostly young teenage girls would send pictures of themselves that he would grade. He'd grade them on their attractiveness, on their bodies and shit like that, and he would critique them and talk about these pictures that little girls were sending to him. How the authorities didn't kick down his door and rip him out of his banana costume for all this shit, I will never fully understand, because there's a lot of substantiated evidence about all of this. So you can immediately see that this is a fucking awful person. This is a bad guy, and the controversies only continued to grow over the years. It got to a point where Chris Hansen investigated him. I think there's even a documentary about Onision and all the awful shit he's done. And he never really faced repercussions for these actions. He even still tried to, like, capitalize off some of the shit. He started an OnlyFans page which focused on cuck porn of him. it's not even really worth going down that road. But yeah, he started an OnlyFans for even more weird shit that he was into and trying to sell. He had an appearance in court a couple years ago where everyone was laughing at him because he showed up in a bulletproof vest. He was actually suing Chris Hansen, but ended up suing the wrong Chris Hansen. And Onision is so unbelievably fucking stupid. He's an absolute bumbling idiot that he decided to represent himself in court. As you can imagine, this was a complete mockery of the legal system, and everyone was laughing at him because he went there in a fucking bulletproof vest, represented himself, and he looked like an extra out of a John Wick film. And now, fast forward to 2023, and he is facing by far his biggest lawsuit yet. They put out a statement a few days ago breaking down everything. The entire 48-page lawsuit is available to read and download if anyone really wants to see all of the details. Here are 5 counts alleged in the filing. This is just an article breaking down the situation, but this is all from the actual complaint. As you can see,
I'm not sure where you get the idea that I should make music. Not much of... I don't even... How do you even know Anomaly wants to do something like that? I feel like if the guy can sing and he wanted to make YouTube videos, he'd probably do it on his own channel. That's what I would do if I was a good singer. So what are you doing? Do you go to school? I feel like you never go to school. Or I should say, I haven't heard about you going to school. It's so random, though. I don't have the equipment to make music.
That spell isn't ready yet.
What time is it for you?
I need more mana. That's still recharging.
These mods are kicking my butt. They are kicking my hiney. Smart.
I can't cast that yet.
I think more schools should not allow cell phones, not gonna lie.
That spell isn't ready yet.
People use it maliciously too much now. This place looks scary. Not a lot of room for me to run around in. Oh god. Okay.
I need to get closer.
I can't really escape from them. Alright. Here goes nothing. Immune to frost spells. That's what I use.
I can't cast that yet.
Okay. I'm not gonna be able to kill these guys fast. I'm gonna have to take one at a time. I'm gonna have to use more fire spells. Because of that. I have a freaking spider. Ugh, another one over there. I'm gonna risk it. Okay, I'll get my mana back up. Mana is the resource that you need to cast these spells. No mana, no spells. No spells equals me dying.
I'm out of range.
Alright, I'm just gonna kill this guy. He's in my way. I don't need him anymore, but... Yeah? Why are you asking if I'm okay?
It's too far away.
What happened to my comments? I just cough sometimes. Try to mute it before I do. Sometimes I don't make it in time.
I can't cast that yet.
Ugh, crap him. Dude, will you just go away and stay dead and leave me alone? I can't jump over that. Ugh. It's scary. What are you gonna do? Alright, I'll just come kill someone over here. Since he doesn't want to get out of the way. Hey, juicy meat right here. Follow me. Over here. Hello, come.
That spell isn't ready yet. Not enough mana. That's still recharging. That spell isn't ready yet.
I ain't gonna die. You might die. If you're not careful. That's not a threat. I'm kidding.
I can't cast that yet.
I need you. Damn it. Where's the big dude at?
That's still recharging.
Don't see him anywhere. Okay, I need 2 of these guys. I'm gonna take them one at a time.
I can't cast that yet.
Don't need you. This one. Every time he puts that ward on him, I can't use frost spells. But when he does use it, it increases the damage that my fire does.
That spell isn't ready yet.
That did a lot of damage on him. Are they all like that? Sucks because fire does a lot of... Ooh, what is that? Oh, it's a player. I don't know why that scared me. This place has got my nerves up. I want to ask if they need the elite. Whenever somebody helps me, I always like helping someone else. Basic principle. I don't know where they went though. I can't. Not him. Can only PvP with the other faction. Instead of PvPing with him, I'll help. And because this guy keeps bullying me, I want to kill him. Sure you could. Practice makes perfect.
I'm out of range. That spell isn't ready yet. I can't cast that yet. That's still recharging.
I'm just have to keep outrunning them. We beat them up. Is the music too loud or is it fine?
King's honor, friend.
This song is a little annoying. I hate when songs repeat themselves over and over like that. It's repetitive. If you know what I mean. I'm sure you do know what I mean. You're a smart cookie. I always like forests like this. They're comforting and peaceful. And the lovely forest. Just running in the floors on my elephant. I still hate this elephant. Look at him. He's ugly. He don't even have eyes. How can he see? He's gonna make me run into this fence. He's a douchebag. That's what this elephant is. He's a big douchebag. Douchebag. Ah! Don't leave me. I was just kidding. Come back. You're not a douchebag. You at least get me to my destination faster. Well, you can keep them.
Good day to you. What can I help you with? For the Alliance.
Oh. Go upstairs in the room behind the rogue trainer. Loot the chest. Okay. Oh, there it is. Hello, chest. I need you. Teleport Stormwind. Okay. Time to go to the city. Just in time, too, because I need to put something in an auction house. Auction house is like this player interact. Well, you put stuff on it and you sell it for gold and stuff, and like you have to hope somebody will buy it.
What can I do for you? Safe travels.
Got a new spell. I like the spell. It's pretty cool looking. I always love the look of that. Ah! My elephant left me. You made me fall. I mean, I'd make me fall too if someone was talking to me the way I talk to it. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay, you're a good boy. Still want a tiger, but you'll do. The moment I get a tiger, you'll probably never be used again. Bad elephant. It's a peaceful little park. Yeah. I'll let you have it. Give me a tiger and I'll let you have this. Here, I'll show you real quick. That's why I like tigers. Look at this. You can't tell me this is not cooler than that elephant. That is so much more badass. You still want the elephant? I bet you don't. I bet you look at this and you're like, I actually want that instead. Alright, back to that character. I logged out just to show you that. What? How can you look at that and not think that is the most badass thing you've ever seen? That doesn't make any sense to me. You took a look at that and you're like, I would rather want the stupid elephant? What is wrong with you? Oh my god. I can't believe what I'm hearing. This man wants an elephant over a tiger. I mean, a tiger would probably kill... I mean, an elephant would probably kill a tiger just by stomping on it, but still, a tiger looks so much cooler. It has to be faster, too. I don't know. How fast do elephants even run? I don't know. Let's see. How fast is a elephant? 25 miles. Oh, that's pretty fast. That's crazy. Can you imagine an elephant running that fast towards you? That shit my pants. I wouldn't have any more pants to wear.
What can I do for you?
How long have I been streaming now? Curious. Doesn't even tell me. It's been at least an hour, hasn't it? If not 2. Well, when did I post that on Discord? 5:22. Yeah, it's been at least an hour. Just curious. Just curious how long it has been.
What can I do for you?
This is my favorite part about this class, is being able to teleport to all the different cities. Every other class has to run there, but this class just instantly teleports. It's the best part about it. That's just the best part. Oh, you did, huh? That's cool. I rarely follow people on YouTube. I need to do that more often, now that I know what it feels like.
What can I do for you?
You've always been a pretty stable viewer, always watching. What do you like better? Do you like watching this or Hogwarts Legacy? I guess the best part about this one is that I can actually talk to you through my headset. You can probably hear me better, but just from like a pure gameplay perspective, like, which is more fun to watch. To me, I would expect Hogwarts Legacy. The graphics for it and everything is a lot better. That's just my opinion. There's definitely some games that are way more fun to play than they are to watch. Oh my god, even that elephant! I'm gonna arrange a whole marriage ceremony for you so that you can marry my elephant. That would be weird. Somebody marrying an elephant. Wait, I meant to post my stream, but I posted something else. Poppy Playtime. Where can I even find that? Is that on Steam? Let's see. Takes forever for Steam to pop up.
Greetings.
You said it's free, didn't you? Is it even on? Well, I'll find out in a moment. Sniff, sniff. Do I smell good?
What can I do for you? Go with honor, friend.
Is it just called Poppy Playtime? Okay. I'm installing it. I'm not gonna play it today. Or maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. But I will get it ready just for you because I told you that I would stream that game. Maybe Friday would be good because nobody has school or anything. I'm sure a lot of people are not at home right now. So maybe I'll do it then.
You need something?
Hi.
I need to get closer.
Where's that? There it is.
What can I do for you?
You're what I need. I always get a lot of crafting materials when I level up a new character. That's the best part about it. What's it at? It's at 84%. Small game. I scare easily, so if I have a heart attack, I'm sending you my medical bill.
Well met.
Have you ever heard of a game called Layers of Fear? I wouldn't mind playing that now. It's a scary game if you like watching scary games.
You got my attention.
Sounds intriguing. I'll show you a trailer real quick. You tell me if you want me to play this game or not. I'm streaming.
In this quiet house, between bookshelves and rows of paintings, lives an artist. Something happened here. Something so frightening, so deeply unnerving. Something wicked, and so profoundly disgusting. Something inexplicable.
What do we do when we fail? We start over. Yes. That's it. Perfection. What the? Give me that! Hey!
There's this one, and there's another one I have. What's it called? I forgot the name of it. Infliction, that's what it's called. So I have that one, and I have this one. You'll have to tell me which one you would rather watch.
Here, there can be only sadness and resolution. This is where the lost are found. And vengeance rears its ugly head.
Which one looks more interesting? The first one I showed you, or that one? I'm gonna say the Poppy Playtime for Friday. But between those two, if I was to stream it now, which one would you want to see? The first or the second one? This one. Which one? Oh. Okay. Actually, I already have it installed. I didn't know I did. Let me go park this. Let me go park this, and I'm going to end this stream as being my WoW stream. And then I'll start up a new one for the scary one. I'll also take a little... want to get up and stretch for a little bit and just go get something to drink. I'll come back and I'll play it. I'll end this stream with WoW. Okay.